Coming up on UCF Nightly News, contaminated injections for back pain is causing concern across the country. We'll tell you how it's impacting Central Florida.
And Amendment 8 is causing people to speak out in Central Florida. Find out what 8 means to Florida's future. Nightly News starts now.
Good afternoon and welcome to Nightly News. I'm Karen Lair.
And I'm Chelsea Sloan. Today is Friday, October 12th. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports a contaminated steroid used to relieve back pain is linked to a national outbreak of fungal meningitis. Nightly News reporter Chris Pinson shows us how it's affecting Central Florida patients.
Christine McGinnis suffers from agonizing back pain. To help alleviate her pain, she receives a series of shots.
It's not a simple shot. It's like having surgery.
The shots contain the steroid methylprednisolone acetate. Officials for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention report this steroid is linked to a nationwide outbreak of fungal meningitis. CDC officials say from May until September, more than 75 healthcare facilities in 23 states, including Florida, received shipments of the tainted steroid. The CDC lists these facilities on its website. Marion County officials confirm 4 people have fungal meningitis, while here in Orlando, there are still no reported cases. Orange County Health Department officials say within the last 2 weeks, they received nearly a dozen calls about the steroid. Health Department spokesman Dane Weister says people who receive these shots should not live in fear.
There's been no recommendation for people to stop going through their normal daily activity if they are patients who get steroid shots.
But whether it's sitting down or standing up, McGinnis says the pain from everyday activity can be overwhelming, which is why she says she's willing to take the risk.
We're trying to get ourselves some relief from pain, so we're going to do what we have to do that. So would I stop doing it because of this and it's helping me? No, I'm still going to continue to do it.
Symptoms of fungal meningitis include numbness, slurred speech, and redness or swelling at the injection site. Reporting in Orlando, Chris Pinson, UCF Nightly News.
The CDC reports the death toll nationwide now stands at 14, including the most recent, an 83-year-old man from Marion County.
Former Penn State assistant coach Jerry Sandusky will most likely be spending the rest of his life in prison. On Tuesday, Judge John Cleland sentenced the 68-year-old to 30 to 60 years in prison. Under Pennsylvania law, Sandusky will not be eligible for parole until he serves the minimum number of years. This sentencing follows an unfolding sex scandal revealed over the past year at Penn State. Authorities arrested Sandusky last November and found him guilty of 45 counts of child sexual abuse this summer. Sandusky denies the allegations and says he is innocent of all charges. His attorney plans to make an appeal in the next 10 days.
October 9th marked the last day of voter registration. Hopefully you had the chance to register to vote before the November 6th election.
Now, Nightly News reporter Valerie Cooper is here to update you on more political news.
Thank you, Karen. Amendment 8 is known as the Religious Freedom Amendment, and it's causing some Floridians to speak out. Reporter Julie Marshall tells us what the amendment would mean for Florida's future.
It is a discrimination issue.
Florida's proposed Amendment 8 is firing up people on both sides. If it passes, Amendment 8 would rewrite Florida's constitution and allow religious organizations to receive public funding. A director for the Catholic Diocese of Orlando, Deborah Shearer, says in the past religious groups faced lawsuits for offering social services and education to the public.
This amendment does not open the doors to increased funding. It just keeps the status quo and protects us from being sued.
But the possibility of funding religious groups is leaving many uneasy, especially when it comes to education.
If 8 passes, public funding can now go to faith-based schools like this one.
And they'll be treated the same as public schools like this one. Many groups are now trying to get people to vote no on Amendment 8. Knights Against 8 member Jordan Chips says his main concern is public schools' budgets and the constitutionality of the amendment.
There's a separation of church and state in the United States Constitution that forbids against any law respecting the establishment of religion. and this is definitely something that doesn't comply with that.
Shearer says religious schools could not compete with public schools for students. But if Amendment 8 gets 60% of the vote, Chip says the two could be treated the same when it comes to funding. In Orlando, Julie Marshall, UCF Nightly News.
On October 23rd, Knights Against 8 is set to hold a rally at UCF to tell students about the No on 8 campaign. And another amendment on the ballot in November is Amendment 1. The amendment could allow Floridians to opt out of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. A court order struck down a similar amendment proposed by the Florida legislature in 2010. Companies like Darden Restaurants, which owns Olive Garden, Longhorn Steakhouse, and others, are hiring more part-time workers. Darden hopes to spread out work hours to cut costs from President Obama's healthcare law. This past weekend, 3 buses filled with 150 Venezuelan voters left downtown Orlando to New Orleans for their presidential elections. A Nightly News reporter rode one of the buses to capture this experience. A huge line formed in New Orleans, and voters waited for hours to get in the ballot box. By the afternoon, more than 7,500 people already voted. As the buses drove back to downtown Orlando, the voters heard the results. Hugo Chavez won the election now for the 3rd time, holding his Venezuelan presidency since 1999. For more on this story, visit the Nightly News website. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Valerie. Time now for a first look at our weather. Julie Marshall joins us with a first look at our forecast.
And the forecast looks a little windy. That's right, Julie?
And it does. There's actually a lake wind advisory in effect for us right now, but we'll talk about that a little later. Today in Orlando, there's going to be a high of 86. Humidity, for the most part, still around today at 79%. It's going to be mostly sunny and, like we said, windy, but currently right now, winds are only blowing at about 7 miles per hour to the north.
Well, thank you, Julie, for that update. Still ahead on Nightly News, one Hispanic group continues to grow in Central Florida. We'll tell you why the population is increasing.
And for the first time at UCF, a group is celebrating their History Month. We'll tell you which group it is and let you know about the events happening in our community. Next on Nightly News.
The final shuttle launch over the summer marked the end of the 30-year space era, but this week, Kennedy Space Center got a new visitor. The SpaceX unmanned Falcon 9 rocket successfully launched Sunday night. SpaceX reported the Dragon capsule reached the International Space Station on Wednesday morning. NASA's press release says this is just the first of 12 missions and the $1.6 billion contract between SpaceX and NASA. The Dragon capsule carried almost 1,000 pounds of food and supplies that will restock the station. At the end of October, the spacecraft will bring back twice as much cargo from the station before parachuting into the Pacific Ocean.
The Hispanic community is growing in Central Florida, but census statistics show a major increase in one population. Reporter Crizia Cruz tells us what is attracting that group to the area.
More jobs, good weather, and Disney World are some factors influencing more Puerto Ricans to move to Central Florida. Dr. Luis Martinez Fernandez, a UCF history professor, says in 1980 only 9,000 Puerto Ricans lived in the area, but now more than 300,000 call Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties their home. He says this growth will play a key role in the upcoming elections this November, especially for the Democratic Party.
Puerto Rican and the Hispanic Democratic vote may very well be the factor that decides the elections.
That's because Pew Research Center statistics show Puerto Ricans are one of the largest groups of the Hispanic population. He also says ownership of businesses like Guavate, a well-known restaurant, are growing the Puerto Rican influence in Central Florida. Guavate employee Francisco Lopez thinks all Puerto Ricans in Orlando should take the time to vote. Lopez says he understands that Puerto Ricans can be of great impact when it comes to the presidential elections. In Orlando, Crizia Cruz, UCF Nightly News.
Dr. Luis Martinez Fernandez says that by 2020, approximately 33% of the overall population will be Hispanics.
7 food trucks that frequent the UCF area met at one location this week, all for a good cause. The food truck rally kicked off the first UCF Relay for Life event on Tuesday. The 3-hour event gave people dozens of treats to choose from shrimp po' boys and fish tacos to gourmet flatbread and a bacon cheeseburger stuffed between 2 glazed donuts. Each truck donates a portion of the profits to the American Cancer Society. Event coordinator Chelsea Ramon says they raised about $150 for cancer research.
On Thursday, UCF hosted Lighthouse Central Florida for World Sight Day, a worldwide blindness awareness event. Lighthouse Central Florida is the only local organization that works for sight impairment awareness and rehabilitation. The event kicked off with a presentation about what it's like to be blind in a classroom setting. Students wore goggles that represented different visual impairments, such as cataracts or glaucoma. The event accommodates students with other disabilities by using a sign language translator. Lee Van Poel is a program coordinator with Lighthouse Central Florida. She says her goal is to educate people so they can better understand how blindness affects people's everyday life.
Last week on Nightly News, we told you about the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and students unsure of their sexuality or gender History Month. Nightly News reporter Alexa Lima learned more about the events and why UCF is celebrating.
October is significant because it's LGBTQ+ History Month, and one of the reasons it is because October 11th is National Coming Out Day.
National Coming Out Day isn't the only event UCF is celebrating. This month is the first time UCF is recognizing LGBTQ History Month. Graduate Assistant for LGBTQ Services at UCF, David Moran, says the goal of this month is to help educate students about the importance of their history. Moran says their community is often invisible or overlooked. This month aims to change that and give those students a voice. Pride Orlando hosted the first of many celebrations last Saturday at Lake Eola. Hundreds showed up to support the gay and lesbian community and enjoy the festivities.
In honor of National Coming Out Day, students could sign this Allies Pledge to show their support for the LGBTQ community.
After signing the pledge, volunteers took their picture and posted it on the Ally board. Student Joel Candropolo thinks this month will bring awareness to the community.
Being that it's allocated to LGBTQ History Month just highlights the importance of all the work that needs to be done.
LGBTQ Services will continue to hold events and celebrate the group's history for the remainder of this month. In Orlando, Alexa Lima, UCF Nightly News.
LGBTQ Services is screening films every Friday in the Communication Building along with other events.
The UCF Wellness Center held its monthly rapid HIV testing event this week for free. The rapid HIV test allows the patient to receive a result in 20 minutes instead of the typical test, which can take up to 2 weeks. Health and Wellness Coordinator Michael Freeman says 1 in 5 people don't know they have HIV, and only 1 1/3 of UCF students actually get tested. He says it's important for students to get tested and learn about the risk involved. Freeman also says beyond the free HIV test, the Wellness Center is there to help with counseling and coping with HIV.
This week gave us a sneak peek at fall weather. When we come back, Julie Marshall tells us what to expect for the next few days.
And basketball season is just around the corner. We'll take you inside the UCF Arena for Media Day up next.
Now it is time to take a look at what is happening in entertainment.
Nightly News reporter Stephanie Zorn is here to keep you up to date.
Thanks, Karen. As part of UCF Hispanic Heritage Month, Mexican comedian Alex Raimundo visited the university on Monday and performed a comedy show called Immigrant Live. Raimundo is recognized nationwide for his comedic work. He's featured on Comedy Central, toured with TV star George Lopez, and is known as one of the Latin kings of comedy. I spoke with him one-on-one, and here's a clip from the interview.
So you're not a citizen?
I'm not. But you know what, to the Latino community, get involved, pay attention. I pay attention. The only thing I don't do is that vote, which is the most important part, really. But hopefully, if anything, between the time that I've spent doing it and now, I've encouraged a lot of people to go out and vote. So, you know, I've maybe done a little part.
To watch the full interview, visit our website at nightlynews.ucf.edu. What do fantasy sports and politics have in common? 3 letters, MTV. In an effort to get the young audience engaged with the 2012 election, MTV is offering Fantasy Election 12. The game is part of MTV's Power of 12 campaign. Players join an online league and draft politicians to their team. Politicians rack up points through constituent engagement, honesty, transparency, civility, and public opinion. Fantasy Election 12 is free to play. Participants are also eligible to win prizes. And Legoland is celebrating its first birthday on October 15th. Guests can celebrate with 50% off single-day admission, gift giveaways, and free cupcakes to the first 5,000 guests. Legoland offers more than 50 rides, shows, and attractions. To find out more about Legoland's birthday, log on to nightlynews.ucf.edu. That's all for Nightly Entertainment. Now it's time to take a look at our weather. Julie, how's it looking today?
Thanks, Steph. It's looking like a great fall day today, and it's looking like an even better end to our work week. Let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures across the rest of the state today. Now today in Orlando, it's going to be 86 degrees. In Jacksonville, it's a little cooler with 83. In Tallahassee, it's holding at 88 degrees. In Tampa, 86, and in Miami, a little cooler again with 85. And for those of you who are lucky enough to travel across the nation today, let's go ahead and take a look at our national temperatures. In Florida, it's going to hold on an average in the 70s this weekend. For all of you die-hard Southeastern Conference or Southeastern United States football fans, it's going to stay in the 60s. In the Northeast, it is going to be a lot cooler, holding at an average of the 40s. And I have to say, I'm personally glad we have a home game in Orlando and not in the Northwest, because it's going to be in the 30s this weekend. And in California, as you can see, it is going to be holding in the 40s and 50s. Let's go ahead and take a look at our national water vapor map now. Interesting things happening in Florida this weekend. There is a drier air front coming through. That's good for two reasons. One, it's going to lower humidity throughout the weekend. And two, it's going to work on that tropical storm Patty out in the Atlantic and start breaking it up. You can see throughout the Midwestern United States and the Western United States, there's a lot of unusual water vapor. However, that's good. They need moisture. They've been going through a drought. And bad news if you are traveling up north or are up north right now, it is going to be moist and rainy and in the 40s this weekend. And okay, now we're going to go ahead and take a look at your 5-day forecast. Like I said, it is going to be extremely windy today and tomorrow. There's actually a lake wind advisory in effect, and we could feel gusts up to 25 miles an hour. It's going to be a high of 85 tomorrow and a low of 69. And we have an 8 o'clock kickoff tomorrow, so make sure to bring those jackets to Bright House Network Stadium. It's going to be mid to high 80s for the rest of the week, lows in the 60s. And rain will be holding at 20% until Wednesday when it clears up. That's all we have for today. Back to you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much, Julie. Still ahead on Nightly News, the Knights football team play another conference opponent at home on Saturday.
Find out who the Black and Gold play up next on Sports.
Hey there, Knights fans. Chris Pinson here, back with another big week for UCF sports. While Saturday's game marks the midpoint on the football season for the Knights, the UCF men's and women's basketball teams are still waiting to tip off. Earlier in the week, they let us in the gym for a basketball media day. On Monday, players and coaches gathered inside the men's practice court to answer questions about upcoming season. The men's team welcomes in 4 new freshmen to partner with 3 returning starters, including 4-year starter and standout forward Keith Clanton. The women's team looks to rebound from an up-and-down season. They'll be tested early by Louisville at the Hardwood Tournament of Hope, south of the border in Mexico. Following the bouncing ball, Conference USA coaches voted star forward Keith Clan preseason Conference Player of the Year. Last season, Clan averaged 14 points and 8 rebounds per game. Those numbers earned him a spot on the All-Conference USA First Team and the All-CUSA Defensive Team. Clant holds the school record for career blocks with 164 and also ranks third in school history with 737 career rebounds. The big man won CUSA Player of the Week twice last season. Looking to stay in mid-season form, Tuesday, head football coach George O'Leary held his weekly press conference. O'Leary reflected on winning the first conference game of the season at home against East Carolina. He says he feels the team brings a lot of momentum to Saturday's matchup against heated conference rival Southern Miss. The Eagles come into Bright House Network Stadium with a goose egg in the win column on the season. But Coach labored on viewing every opponent equally and not looking ahead.
I think we've always had great rivalry and great respect for each other from that sense. And I anticipate, even though they haven't won a game, I expect, anticipate a whale of a ball game Saturday night.
And that's all the time we have for sports. Thanks for watching. Now back to you guys.
Thank you, Chris. And just before the weekend begins, let's take one last look at our weather forecast.
Julie's here to recap the 5-day forecast.
Yeah, guys, it's going to be mid to high 80s for the rest of the week. Like I said, rain chances will be down thanks to that dry air coming through. And that's really good news because no one wants to be hit with a tropical storm right now. Thank you, Patty. There's actually going to be some wind shear coming in and actually working on that storm along with the drier air coming through. So that's really good news. And Sunday, it's going to be a little bit warmer with a high of 87, but basically rain chances staying low, 20%, 20%, 0%. So it's looking good for the next few weeks. Perfect fall weather coming our way. Back to you guys.
That's all the time we have for now. Thank you for joining us.
If you have a story idea or a comment about something you've seen here on Nightly News, email us at nightlynews@ucf.edu. We'd love to hear from you.
And be sure to check us out online in both English and Spanish at our website, nightlynews.ucf.edu. Join us here again next week. Until then, have a great weekend.